but thank you for coming out to connect to my story, to connect to Am Yisrael, to connect to Israel. For those who don't have seats, there are still a few in the front, if you dare. Doesn't cost any extra, right? So thank you so much for you guys to be a part of my story. A month and a half ago, I was sitting in the middle of the desert, freezing my tuchus off in something called an ice bath. Anybody know what an ice bath is? It's the worst. I was sitting in this ice bath, just breathing, trying to control my breath on a 3-day healing retreat in the middle of the desert, no phones, soldiers who had gone through what we went through, just trying to heal. There was sweat lodges, and there was yoga, and there was meditation, and there was breath work, and there was ice baths, and all the crazy, crazy stuff, all in order to answer one question. That question is, what's my story? What do I take from the experiences that I experienced? What did I learn from them? And what can I give over to you guys from this story? I still struggle with that answer, still trying to figure that out. And so tonight I'm going to start with a little tefillah. Hashem sfatai tiftach ufi agiti latecha. Please help me tell the story in the way I want to tell it. I'm not interested in depressing you guys tonight. I'm not interested in making you guys sad or telling any gory stories. My goal for tonight is that in a year from now, you call me up. Actually, no, don't call me up. In a year from now, you send me an email. Much better. You send me an email saying, Arky, I was there that night a year ago, and you gave this speech about doing certain things, the lessons that you learned in Gaza and outside of Gaza, and I took those to heart. I took those seriously. I still have the card that I took from the desk on my fridge. Yeah. Okay, now you know. Awesome. And I still do those things till today. And if you guys take this night seriously, take upon yourselves these lessons, these missions that I command of you tonight as your mission, if you choose to accept them. Yes, I just became a commander, and I didn't even have to do the commander's course. Sweet. So tonight we will go through these missions, these lessons that I learned. And if you take it seriously, then you're actually a part of my healing. Because you're taking my experiences, the things that I went through, and you're turning them into something positive. You're adding that light that we are trying to add into this world. So if we take this seriously and we do this together, we go through this journey together, you will be a part of my healing. Where does the story start? Where should I start my story? Do I start my story as a little kid who probably had way too much ADHD to even sit through this speech that I'm giving tonight? I'll tell you a little story. I was just told that apparently when I was a kid, a rabbi gave up to give a drasha. You'll love this one. And in the middle of the drasha, I was done with the drasha, so I got up to the bima, and I clopped on the bima, and I said, Rabbi, shkoyach! My proudest moments. So please don't do that, guys. And this crazy young hyper boy was falling in love little by little with Israel. He wanted to go to Israel for his bar mitzvah for the first time. And when he went to the Kotel, I saw soldiers, right? And I saw those soldiers, oh, they're so cool. And I talked to them, and they were so inspiring. And we danced Kabbalat Shabbat, oh my gosh. And Yom HaZikaron ceremonies in my school, and we would hear the stories of Michael Levine and lone soldiers and paratroopers, and I was just like, I want to be that. That sounds awesome. That sounds so cool. And by 12th grade, I was already clearly going to be that kid who ended up in Israel for life. They weren't wrong. By 12th grade, I didn't even apply to college. I knew I was going to be going to the army. And so I come to yeshiva, and I go to this beautiful yeshiva called Leva Torah, and then I switched because I wanted to be even more Israeli, and went to Otniel, a Hesder yeshiva. And it was there I decided I wanted to become a paratrooper. Right? Why become a paratrooper? You can be any combat any combat unit. Paratroopers is the only unit of the main combat units that you need to try out to get into. And I wanted to be with people who not just had to be in the Army, but wanted to be in the Army. So I tried out for the paratroopers. I don't know how, but somehow they let me in. And in the training, they decided it was a good idea to give me this massive gun called the Negev. The Negev is a heavy automatic rifle, shoots 1,200 bullets in a minute. You guys in Florida would love it. They gave it to me because I didn't have the best aim in the world, so they figured, let's give him 1,200, he'll eventually hit something, right? And they gave me this weapon, and that was my duty. And I'll never forget, one Yom HaZikaron, lots of people know about the siren. What many people don't know is that every single soldier who was killed at their grave during the siren, usually there is a live soldier, not usually, every single Yom HaZikaron at the siren, there's a live soldier standing there giving a salute for those 2 minutes, standing next to the grave. And I'll never forget, my commander said, if you can't make it there on time, because the cemeteries, they're like crazy mobbed, if you can't get there on time, Yom HaZikaron morning by the siren, sleep in the cemetery the night before. No thanks, I'm good, I'll get there on time. And I'm standing there, and there's a lady standing next to me with her head on my shoulder, and I'm standing next to this grave from Yom Kippur War, a long time ago. And she's standing there and she's crying. She puts her head on my shoulder. She says, Shem yishmor otcha, Shem yivarech otcha, over and over and over and over again. Who is this lady? The mother. The mother of the soldier. And she's looking at me, an 18-year-old, a paratrooper with the red beret and the red boots. And she sees her son. And it was at that moment that I truly understood what it means that Israel doesn't want any of this. If we could choose between having the best army in the world and not needing the best army in the world, what would we choose, guys? Not needing, right? We don't want any of this. And so I continued in the paratrooper unit, and I was in Hebron and in Lebanon. It wasn't too exciting. We did a couple things, but nothing too crazy. And when we finished the army unit, I was released, right? Now, I didn't know how to say duck in Hebrew. I didn't know how to say shoot in Hebrew. I didn't know how to say run in Hebrew. But you learn pretty quickly, right? When he says tira and everybody starts shooting, you're like, okay, I guess that's what it means to shoot. Tischa, and everybody starts crawling. Okay, I guess I know how to crawl now. I know what that means. But I learned, it's probably the easiest way to learn Hebrew. You kind of have to. And when I finished the army, I was sent off into civilian life like every other soldier, created a beautiful family, an amazing job, tour guiding, spreading the love of Israel to the Jewish people. But every single year, I got called up to Miluim. Miluim is reserves, for those who don't know. Every single year, 7 days, 10 days, a week, 3 weeks, a month. You say goodbye to your family, goodbye to your kids, and you go off to do training so that we're always ready. And I figured that when I went into Miluim, they would give me my Negev. I would do the pew-pew again. It would be awesome. But no. They said to me, you're no longer a paratrooper. Your new job is search and rescue for fallen soldiers. Your new job is to go under fire, behind enemy lines, to make sure that every soldier that goes out to war and gives the ultimate sacrifice comes back for a Jewish burial. And I said, no thanks. That's beyond me. I'm good. Can you sign me up? Where's my Negev? This is not what I want to do. This is totally different. I want to conquer. I want to take part. I want to pew-pew. I talked to my father about it. I had to work on myself a lot. And my father said, your grandmother in a small town in Binghamton, New York, volunteered for the Chevra Kadisha. She was in charge of making sure that the women who passed away in the small town of Binghamton got a Jewish burial. So maybe there's something to this. But even more, your grandfather, your Zaidi on your father's side, he was in the Holocaust. He was from Prague, Czechoslovakia. He was sent to Auschwitz. And when he got to Auschwitz, the Nazis forced him to be a part of the Sonderkommando, those whose job it was to dispose of the human remains of the Jews who were killed in Auschwitz. To think that 80 years later, his grandson would be in charge in the unit in Gaza who are giving the ultimate respect to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I'll stick around a couple more years. Maybe this is meant to be. And so every single year, we would train. How do we train for something like this? We train in burnt tanks. We train with underground, under rubble. We train in forests, in thick bushes. Every single terrain you could possibly imagine. And every single time we finished our training, we ended with a little tefillah. The tefillah went something like this. We're not actually going to have to do this, right? That was our tefillah. It wasn't really a tefillah, but it really was. We really, truly believed that going behind enemy lines and enemy territory and removing those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, the fallen soldiers, that's something that they used to do. That's the olden days. That's the wars of Yom Kippur War and 1967. That's not something that we're going to need to do today, right? And that's how we felt on October 7th, when I'm sitting in shul and the rockets are going on over our heads and they're telling us where the local bomb shelter is. And there's rumors going around. Hamas has taken over parts of southern Israel. And I'm thinking to myself, but we're not going to be called. We only get called if it's really bad. And unfortunately, I made the big mistake of telling everybody in shul, don't worry, as long as I'm here, it's not that bad. That was not a good idea. I ran home, I grabbed my phone, I see the missed calls, I go back to shul, I get the call, Arky, we need you. And in front of everybody, in front of the whole shul, that I said, don't worry, as long as I'm here, it's okay. I'm hugging my kids, hugging my wife, and I'm saying goodbye. And they all know what that meant, that things are not okay. And I rush home, and I have to pack. Let me ask you guys a question. How many pairs of underwear do you pack when you go to war? Am I going for a day? Am I going for a week? Am I going for a month? How many socks do I need, right? That's where you guys came in, right? We used to say the first few weeks of the army, we called underwear disposable because we just had so many pairs that Am Yisrael was sending to us. We were basically pieces of meat in disposable underwear at a certain point. And so I'm rushing to my car. My car doesn't have gas. That's a problem. Because gas stations in Israel aren't always open on Shabbat. Right? It was Shabbat. Where do I go? How do I get gas? I get in my car, I start finding, okay, there's a gas station that's open, fill up gas, and get to the base. So maybe, just maybe my story begins on October 7th. When I get called up, when I get to the base, and I start getting my gear, right? You guys heard all the videos of the soldiers. Guys, we don't have helmets, we don't have bulletproof vests, right? And you guys probably answered that call, right? You guys sent the equipment, sent the money, sent the aid that literally saved people's lives. Because with better gear, you can fight better. But I can only explain from you from my experience, we had everything that we needed. When we got there, I had in mind the stories of the Yom Kippur War, right? Stories of the Yom Kippur War where there wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough ammunition. There wasn't enough guns for everybody. And so we got there, we had everything that we needed. And as we're about to step onto the Hummer, by the way, the gear wasn't the best gear in the world. It was uncomfortable, it was old helmets, it was old knee pads. Every time you sent something